What's up, guys? Today we're going to be comparing the LG V60 to the S23 Ultra. And I know a lot of you guys have the V60 and you want to see how it compares, just in case you're thinking about updating to S23 Ultra, or if you don't have either of these phones. It's a very different price bracket here. LG V60 you can find easily around 200 bucks. Use refurbished marketplace just like this one. And then the S23 Ultra is, without any trade-ins, a $1,200 phone. And it's a big price gap here, so you can go with a cheaper, powerful alternative, or you can go with the latest flagship here. But the V60 does have a lot of special things up its sleeve, which I think make this comparison pretty good. So let's start off with the hardware. These are both pretty solid phones. They're both built like tanks. They're both glass and metal phones, and they're both IP68. You can see two beautiful designs here. I just absolutely think these are some awesome looking phones here. And they're very big phones as well too. The V60 definitely way more comfortable to hold in the hand. It's not as boxy on the edges, and it doesn't cut to the palm like the S23 Ultra here. Down below with the hardware here, you see some pretty massive differences. So the V60 does have a headphone jack with a quad DAC, so you get very high quality audio out of this phone. Also have dual speakers on both of these phones, and the S23 Ultra does have the S Pen. It does have the S Pen built in, which is really nice. So if you're somebody that's into digital artwork and drawing, you'll really like that. But also, guys, what's pretty cool is that the V60 does have pen support. A lot of people don't actually know that. Now, a lot of people don't know the V60 actually does have pen support as well, so you can use a stylus with this phone. But again, the stylus is not built in like the S23 Ultra, so again, it really comes down to your personal preference there. But the V60 also does have SD card support, which the S23 Ultra does not. So you can have expandable storage on this phone if you take a lot of videos, download a lot of games and stuff like that. That'll be very handy. Alright guys, let's talk about the displays here. So the V60 has a 6.8-inch POLED display. It is a 1080p panel, and it is HDR10 plus 395 for the PPI. Now, the S23 Ultra obviously has the better display. It's a dynamic AMOLED, 120 Hz, HDR10 plus. It gets much brighter in direct sunlight at 1750 nits. It's 1440p, and it's 500 for the PPI. And also, it just has the more boxier shape, which I think a lot of people prefer because it reminds them more of a TV. Also, the bezels aren't as chunky as well too, so it just gives you that overall more immersive experience. And also, the punch hole is much better than the the water drop notch for sure. So display here, obviously the S23 Ultra is better, but here's, like I said, the trick with the LG V60 is that it actually does have dual screen case capability, so you can actually have two displays with the LG V60. So you can turn this into basically a true multitasking phone, which is pretty incredible. So just imagine, two phones like this together. It's a very awesome experience. You can find them on eBay, typically for probably less than 100 bucks nowadays. And you basically get two screens and a true multitasking experience. So that's one thing that the V60 does have. But if we're talking about just raw display, yes, the specs on the S23 Ultra are much better. It's 120 Hz. It's just better brightness, better bezels, all that good stuff. So definitely a pretty nice display upgrade. But if you're somebody that is a hardcore multitasker, the V60 is definitely going to be better here. Now let's talk about these specs a little bit more here. So the V60 does have the Snapdragon 865 chip on here, and it does have also SD card support, like I said earlier, and then 128 gigs of internal storage and 8 gigs of RAM. This phone is upgradable to Android 12, and it looks like LG will release the Android 13 update. And again, even though the LG is no longer making phones anymore, they're still supporting this phone as far as software goes. So that's really nice. Also, the S23 Ultra has the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor. We're running Android 13, One UI 5.1. This one is 512 gigabytes and 12 gigs of RAM, but the base is 256 and 8 gigs. So basically, you can see, pretty big score difference here. Not too big actually, especially when it comes to performance, I think performance on the V60 is absolutely solid. It's a very fast phone with the Snapdragon 865. You guys know how much I love this chip. It's a very efficient chip. Down the line, you guys can see it's pretty much still on par with the, and the V60 does have a very smooth 60 hertz panel, by the way, too. So even though the 120 hertz, it does feel smoother, of course, and easier on the eyes. This is still very smooth for for 60 hertz. But when it comes to overall general speed, these phones pretty much feel on par with each other, as you guys can see. Animations and just getting into applications. I think games, you might notice a bit of a difference when it comes to the loading times, but well, we didn't even see a big difference there. But like I said, these two phones are just blazing fast. You guys can see how fast the V60 is. Also, the gaming experience on here. So let's go ahead and get into PUBG here. The gaming experience is pretty good. Obviously, if you're a hardcore gamer, the S23 Ultra is going to be much better because you just have better GPU performance. So during a long period of gaming, it's going to be able to have more consistent frame rates, and overall it's just going to be a better experience, right? But with the V60, what's interesting is that, again, the dual screen case. So the dual screen case with the V60, you're able to take advantage of games that support it, right? Now when you are actually gaming, both these phones do a fantastic job. Like I said, the V60 does have the edge when it comes to having the dual screen case set up for games that are compatible with it. But as you can see here, it's able to play PUBG pretty smoothly at the 60 frames here at HDR Extreme, and it pretty much plays at the same exact settings of the S23 Ultra. But like I said, in a more extreme case of gaming, you're obviously going to want the more power, right? So they both play games extremely good, right? But like I said, the V60 is pretty impressive because it's only $200 and it's playing games at such a high frame rates and just overall just really smoothly. So it is very impressive here. That's why I like it. If you guys do want to see a full gaming test for the V60, I do have it posted on the channel. You can type it in the search bar. Both these phones have some pretty fantastic stereo speakers. Let's go ahead and check them out. Max volume. Yeah, I definitely give it the slight edge to the S23 Ultra. It does sound a little bit louder and overall just a little bit more clearly. Also, I can hear the low notes on the bass a little bit more on this phone. So Samsung has definitely made a very good improvement with the S23 Ultra speakers. The V60 has some awesome speakers. You guys know, absolutely love these speakers. But yeah, like the S23 Ultra speakers are pretty impressive this year. Alright guys, so I do want to go ahead and talk about the additional features here. So the S23 Ultra does have two biometric options. You have face unlock, also the fingerprint scanner. The fingerprint scanner is definitely way faster than the V60's fingerprint scanner, and also the V60 does not have any type of face unlock as well too. So do note that. Like I said, both these phones have wireless charging. The S23 Ultra does have reverse wireless charging though, which is pretty sweet. And for additional features, like I said, it's a toss-up. You have headphone jack, dual screen case on here. You have the pen support on here as well too. SD card support. So you have a lot actually going for the V60 when it comes to the additional features. Let's go ahead and talk about the cameras. So this is probably one of the biggest differences. You have a 200 megapixel standard on the S23, 10 megapixel periscope telephoto, does 10x, and then you also have a 10 megapixel telephoto that's 3x optical, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It shoots in 8K 30, and then you also can go up to 100 times zoom on this phone if you wanted to get like a shot of like the moon or just something really far away. It's really good for that. And then you have a 12 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 60. The V60 does have a 64 megapixel standard, 13 megapixel ultra wide, and then a 0.3 depth sensor. It shoots in 8K 30, 10 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 30. So check out these side by side stills. Let me know, what do you guys think? Alright guys, here's the video on the V60 here. There are 2x, 0.5. Let me know what you guys think. Alright guys, here's just a little test footage of the S23 Ultra here for the video. The 3x, 10x. As you see, just look at the detail. It's really nice. Very impressive. And we do have a 0.6 on here as well too. So just awesome image quality here, man. Now, as far as the battery situation goes, Samsung has made a pretty good upgrade with the battery situation this year. Both these phones have 5,000 milliamp batteries. The S23 does charge at 45 watts, wireless charging and reverse wireless charging. The V60 does have wireless charging as well. So basically the battery situation, both these phones actually have excellent battery life. The V60 has amazing battery life and good standby time as well too. But you can say the same thing for the S23 Ultra. It's very good. Both these phones are able to give me a day and a half, if not 2 days of battery life, which I think is extremely impressive. So you really can't go wrong with either phone when it comes to battery life this year. That wasn't always the case with Samsung, but they really stepped it up this year. So basically those are your major differences. So if you're thinking about upgrading from the V60 to the S23 Ultra, it's a pretty good upgrade depending on who you are. In some cases it is a downgrade. So be sure to let me know, what do you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.